Good to go, sir. I have made you the host. You can start the session. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Utkarsh. Okay, guys, let me also start sharing. One moment, guys, just adjusting the Zoom dashboard here. Okay, cool. So just for the sake of recordings again, my name is Sukesh. And okay, so my name is Sukesh. I am a CCIE security, right? And it's been about 13 years of experience that I have into IT and network security, right? And without any further delay, let's get started with the firewall, right? Palo Alto it is. Now, before we get into anything about Palo Alto, okay, let's understand some of the basics, okay, of the firewall. Let's understand where would it sit into the network and where exactly um, how do you configure it into the network and what does it do to the network, like very basic things of the firewall you might not I mean you might know it already, some of you, but it may be completely new for some of you guys. So let's just make sure that everybody's on the same page in terms of it, and then we can get on to Palo Alto specific things. Okay, so a very few basic things that I like to tell always. Let's say this is your firewall, and if anybody cannot see my screen or it is laggy or anything, just let me know, okay? Let's say these are your servers. Let's give a test PC here, and that's our cloud, okay? Perfect, yeah. And let's give a connection here towards DMC. Now, this is our firewall, okay? Cool. Outside DMZ, and that's your Palo Alto right there. So any firewall, not just Palo Alto, this would be your basic setup of the traffic which is flowing through any firewall, right? It would have a leg. By leg, I mean an interface, which will be in inside zone, or you may call it trust zone, right? Or you may call it internal. Same goes for outside, right? Or you may call it inside. Sorry. I meant outside, untrust, or external. Okay. There's no fancy names for this. This is pretty standard. DMZ stands for demilitarized zone. Now, why am I telling you this is, the most of the traffic that you will see when you start working on firewalls, or you might have seen already in your experience with firewalls so far, how the standard flow of traffic works, right? So this is where you keep um, all your applications. Okay, any application that you wish can be accessed by the users on internet. Okay, all of the traffic will be coming in like this. So what does that mean for us? That means the firewall must allow this communication outside to DMZ. Always understand one thing: firewall does not mean that it is going to restrict your communication. Hold onto that thought that firewall is to limit communication. I would say firewall is used to provide secure access. Okay, securely your users are able to access your hosted applications. Okay, there's a difference. You cannot just lock everything into the network and call it a secure network. It's pretty much unusable. Yeah, and if you're able to access it securely, by securely, what do I mean? There could be, attackers onto the internet, right? You don't want them to access your applications, or even if they try, the firewall should be able to stop that communication if it is coming in, right? So that's secure access, giving access to legitimate users and stopping non-legitimate users from accessing or entering into your network. Make sense? And now this DMZ could have a segregation. Okay. Now, what could be that segregation? It could be a segregation of internal and external DMZ. Okay. For example, let's say this is internal DMZ. This is external DMZ. Why? Because there could be some applications which we have for our internal use. It will be accessed from inside. Here, let's just say that this management PC here is also our inside network. So they will be accessing this. And on top of this, these users would want to go on internet as well. Okay. So these are the three communication which you will deal with, which are always flowing through the firewall. Okay. Now there could be traffic which is going through the firewall, and there could be traffic which is going to the firewall. Okay. All the traffic that we have seen so far is the traffic which is going through the firewall, which means the destination is not the firewall. Whatever request came, that request came for some XYZ destination, not any IP address configured on the firewall, right? traffic going to the firewall. For example, there's another connection, let's say, or just draw it properly, right? So we could call it the management connection, and this traffic would be going directly to the firewall, right? So this is not important from exam perspective. This is not important from uh, interview perspective, but this is important to get an idea of how the traffic uh, works around the firewall. Okay, to get you a holistic idea of what the firewall is doing in the network and what all sort of traffic is going through it. Okay. One very important thing that I would like to tell you that I do not want you to forget, right? Ever in your life, right? And probably in your next lives also, that do not associate me with the Pride Parade, okay? I am using this multicolored pen because it just makes it look more readable, the screen, okay? I am perfectly straight, just in case. I just thought of it looks very colorful, and these days things are pretty messy. So yeah, okay. Now, some Palo Alto specific things. By default, okay, let's talk about defaults of Palo Alto. There will be security policies. Now, by security policies, I mean um, there will be rules that you will have to create. For example, you will have to allow this traffic to go through the firewall. By default, if you put a firewall into the network, it is going to block all your traffic, right? No traffic can go through the firewall, right? You can still send traffic to the firewall, but it won't let anything pass through it. Okay, before I go further, any questions anybody might have here about
No.
the DMZ or okay, cool.
Actually, I had the question regarding DMZ. So DMZ, what is the definition of DMZ? Actually, is it a storage of filtered traffic, or we can take it this way?
Mm, see, I'll put it in a layman's term first. Uh, DMZ is the living room of your network. Okay,
Okay.
metaphorically speaking, guests coming into your network, they're going to sit here in the living room, right? And this is where you bring them tea and coffee, right? This is where you host them.
Okay, got it.
So you put in all your applications here. Anything that you want to host, it could be a mail server, file server, website, anything, right? That you want external users to be able to access. That's where you put in DMZ,
Okay,
right?
okay, got it.
And
Hmm.
why do we have an internal DMZ? Because you are already securing this area. The term is a bit contradictory. The full form of it is demilitarized zone, which means less military, less security, as we associate military with security. But it is what it is. So it's like you're opening up your network, but in a limited way.
Okay, okay,
Okay. And yeah, guys, just want to emphasize on this again. If you have questions anytime, just stop me. Okay. I it's difficult for me. I have a lot of tools here to make it look the craft uh, perfect, right? So I don't really look at the messages, and it becomes too much for me to manage messages, right? So I think I can ask you to speak up whenever you have a question. Let's make it real. Yeah.
sure.
Okay. So defaults. So by default, right? No traffic is going through the firewall. It is going to block all of the traffic. Traffic to the firewall, yes, you can send, but there are catches to it as well, and we will talk about that. And by default, right, there are two rules that you should be aware of. One is about the intrazone communication, and the second is the interzone communication. Let's talk about the simpler one first. Interzone communication. Any communication that is, entering into this interface, going out to other interface, right? Not specific to these, any interface, right? Inbound on one interface, going out on another interface, and those interfaces, they are part of different security zone, right? Now, a new term getting introduced, security zone. What is security zone? All these interfaces, they are part of these security zones, right? When you configure the firewall, and this is true for every firewall, okay? Not every firewall is zone based, but in some way or the other, they will associate the interfaces to some sort of security level, okay? For example, in Cisco, we have security levels, right? The inside interface will have a security level of maximum, that is 100, right? And outside of the firewall will have a security level of 0, which means if you name the interface as, give it in the description or name it as they call it, inside the firewall assigns security level of 100 automatically, okay? And same goes for outside. Similarly, if you look at Juniper, they use the terminology of trust and untrust, right? If you go for checkpoint, they use the terminology of internal and external. So whenever you configure interfaces on these firewall, you'll have to put them in trust zone for Juniper, let's say, and internal and external will be selected on the checkpoint. Checkpoint does it automatically on the basis of IP addresses, but you can override it, right? For example, if you put in private IP, okay, the firewall thinks that it is some sort of internal IP address. If you give a public IP address onto the interface, the firewall assumes that this is the leg that connects towards internet. Cool. Now, in terms of Palo Alto, we have a similar concept. See how similar all the firewalls are, right? By the end of the course, you will be able to uh, you'll be able to get a fair idea on how a firewall would work. Okay, be it any firewall, Checkpoint, Juniper, Cisco, right, Palo Alto, or some basic Linux-based firewall onto the cloud, be it any firewall, right? They all work the same. It's just the cosmetic and a little bit tweaks here and there that makes one different from the other. And those are the tweaks that we will learn through the course here for Palo Alto. Okay, back to it. Interzone communication is what we were talking about. So this communication going into one interface, coming out of the other, and provided these interfaces are part of a different security zone, this communication will be called interzone. And by default, okay, by default, this communication is not allowed. Now, what do I mean not allowed? There will be a security rule on the firewall. Okay, the rule will say that, okay, any source IP, destination IP, right? And let's say you have source zone, destination zone. There will be an any rule, right? Going from, yeah. So the action on it will be to deny. Okay. And in case of intrazone, you will have the zone name specified. Let's say by default, I think it has the trust zone only, right? There is a security. If you put the if you put two interfaces into the same zone, right, this communication will be allowed. So any IP going to any IP address within these zones, okay? See, we have a differentiating factor now. It's not a complete any rule. So we have a differentiating factor is the trust zone. Now this communication will be allowed. Now, what if you have two interfaces onto the untrust zone? What do you think? Will it be allowed? A question for you all.
From trust zone to untrust zone, it should not be allowed, I think.
No, the interzone part is good. We're now looking at the intrazone. So when we have this rule, right? Any IP address going to any IP address in, let's say, untrust zone. Okay, the source zone is untrust, the destination zone is also untrust. It's a very specific scenario. You won't see it on daily basis, maybe. But yeah, just for the sake of understanding, what do you think will happen? And this is for everyone, guys. You can chip in. It's okay. Speak up. Even if you are thinking you think it's wrong, it's all right. We're all here to make mistakes and learn from them.
I think it's a block the traffic because it's from the untrust zone or from the outside traffic.
No. See, intrazone. The word intrazone here means of the same source, same destination with respect to the zone. Okay, here the traffic is going to the trust to the same zone and originating in the same zone, right? So that means it is not going through the firewall. Okay, remember this. Any traffic which is going through the firewall will not be allowed. Okay, it does not matches 100%, but just to give you an idea, right? Let's say you have two interfaces, so technically you can say that it is going through the firewall, right? But let's just say that no, it is in the same zone. It is not going out of the zone, right? So from the zone perspective, it is not going out of it. So when it is within the same zone, the traffic is allowed by default. So like most firewalls would have a rule which is to block any traffic, right? The implicit deny rule. Have you heard the term implicit deny? Are you guys aware of it? Implicit deny means there will be a rule at the bottom of all your security rules. Okay, we will talk more about rules and how they work, but for now, this implicit deny rule you can also understand in easy term is your default rule. Okay, so by default, all of the traffic is denied. Nothing is going through. Right. So in Palo Alto, you have this additional segregation, you can say, of intrazone and interzone traffic. Perfect. Any questions up till now? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Now, some Palo Alto specific things, okay, that we are going to deal with into our course and the topology that we are going to use, okay. It's going to look something like this, right? Where you have maybe the public IP address won't be the same, but I will try to keep everything else as it is. Okay. So this PC here in our lab, the only difference is this also has a leg into the internet. And why is that? Just in case we are blocked onto the firewall for internet traffic while we are testing in the lab, and this requires internet connection for some sort of update, or let's say we have to download some software on it for our testing. So I keep a backdoor kind of here for our access, right? We will keep things transparent, okay? Not to worry. And yeah, let me explain the topology a little. This PC here will have three interfaces. One connects to the management of the firewall. Yes, the firewall has a dedicated management interface. Okay, by dedicated, I mean any traffic going through going to the firewall. Okay, let's say on this inside interface. Okay, on this inside interface, I try to ping the firewall. Let's take a very simple example. Yeah, from this PC here, I say 192.168.1.1. I ping. Do you think, let's say I have it configured, the interface is enabled, everything. What do you think the response should be? Will it be a successful response, or will I not get response? What should it be as per you guys? Question for you all, right? Simple, two networking devices connected. This is 1.20. Let me make it more specific. It's /24/24 in the same subnet. What do you think should happen?
The reply. The
Yeah,
client should be
the
able to
reply
ping to the
is we
firewall,
should,
but I don't
yeah,
think
we
it
should
should be
get a
the reply.
successful response back from the firewall, right? But we don't. Okay, we don't get it. Why do we not get it? Because the firewall is trying to, since this traffic, okay, since this traffic is going to the firewall, we are trying to talk to the firewall, not sending traffic through it, and it will just check security policy, check if it should be allowed or no, and then pass it through. No, the firewall is trying to get involved in this communication, right? It is going to transmit, not just pass it and after checking the packets. So any traffic, any such traffic, the firewall, where the firewall has to communicate, it tries to communicate with its management interface, which means the firewall um, will try to send the packets through the management interface. Okay. I don't know. Something doesn't feel right here. Give me a minute. Sorry, my bad. Let me fix this. You will get a response here. Okay. You will get a response here. But what if you try to ping from the firewall to the PC here? You won't be able to. Okay. You won't be able to. Because now the firewall is trying to initiate the communication, right? Not for replies, but initiate the communication. No worries, we will figure this out in a while when we fire up the firewall and configure it for the basic topology. Okay, we will look at it. No worries. Okay, that is that. And how do we make this happen if it is not working, right? How do you make a firewall communicate through a particular interface, or you let any other IP on the network communicate with the firewall is with the interface management profile. Okay, now do not get overwhelmed. It looks a very tricky name, but it's simply you specify here interface specific rules, right? Or you can say you can allow or deny some of the traffic here, which is going to the firewall. Okay. In other words, these are the security rules for the traffic which is going to the firewall and not through the firewall. All right. The other part is simple. This is your DMZ. We will in our lab. This is a Cisco router. Okay. We're not going to do anything crazy on the DMZ like hosting application or anything. We'll do a simple ping and probably we can set up an HTTP server on this and do a telnet on port 80 from this to understand how the HTTP traffic is flowing. Okay. Similarly, here also you have a Cisco router in our lab, right? This leg of our network will still be private, okay? Because we are in the lab environment, of course. So this is going to be private IP address, and yes, this will be public. This is further connected to a cloud in the lab, and that gives us IP address from DHCP. So what will it be? This will be your internal networking's network, and that further will take you to internet. Okay, so that's how our lab setup is. Now let's fire up the firewall and look at some of the basic configuration on it. Okay, there are more things that you might be expecting on a day one before we jump onto the firewall, but do not worry. These are the main things that you have to know, and everything else will follow through. Okay, so that's our lab. Let me fire up the devices. Right, once started, we can use this diagram here. Looks more presentable, yeah. Let's give it some time for the devices to be ready, guys. In the meantime, let's talk.
Danger used
Right.
for?
I'm sorry? Come
In
again, please.
danger, can you explain?
So, sorry, your voice is breaking up, Bhupendra. Can you say that one more time for me, please?
Yeah, so this outside and danger, can you explain about it?
Outside and danger. Ah, okay. This part here. Okay. This you're talking about, right? So outside, this is your from the firewall perspective. This is going to be our interface that connects to the outside of the network. And by danger means it only represents that this is the area that we do not administer, and you can expect malicious users coming from outside and trying to access your DMZ. Right? It just for understanding does not really mean anything for the lab. Right? Just for representing the jurisdictions of the firewall. Okay.
Yeah, so these will be on internet, right? Not inside your network. Maybe this danger or outside. These are outside interface.
Yeah, this technically this is not what we are managing. Okay.
Thanks.
Just in the background, we are managing this router in our lab. From the firewall perspective, this is our outside zone.
Actually, I had two questions. One is that just I wanted you to explain again. One is you said traffic going to firewall and other traffic going through firewall. So what is the
Yes.
basic difference? How we can understand it? Let's say if it is the traffic going to firewall, what would be its nature? And if it is going through firewall, what would be its nature? There is one thing that I wanted to know.
See, what's your name? Govind,
Govinda.
right?
Yeah.
Govinda. So Govinda, who's your best friend?
Okay, got it. I took one name. Okay. Yeah. Let's say Psycut.
Sorry?
Let's say
Say that again?
Psycut is my
Psycut. Okay.
Psycut
Okay.
is my
Psycut. Let's say Psycut gives you a nice bouquet of flowers. Okay.
Mhm.
And say that, I really like that XYZ girl so and so in your office, right? Would you pass my message to that girl? And there you go. This is the bouquet, and there's a V card in it, right? And you can hand it over to her. So what are you here? Only acting as a messenger or a transporter or a
correct.
carrier of the packet, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the bouquet is going through you. The bouquet is not for you,
Correct. Oh, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And when you give it to the girl says, "No, this is for you, Govinda," right? I really like you, not your friend. So then
Okay.
the bouquet is for you. So that's the traffic which is for you, right? Now, in
Mhm.
terms of network, what will happen? The destination IP address, okay? The bouquet, okay? The destination IP address will be not on the firewall when the traffic is going through the firewall,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
But when it is going to the firewall, the destination IP address will be configured on the firewall, either on some physical interface or on virtual interface or on the loopback, or in some way it will be going to the firewall, and it is the firewall that will respond back, right? Or will do the necessary action of that traffic.
Okay. So you just were giving an example of sending messages to firewall. So this is the example. you were trying to explain this, right? You sent one message
Yeah.
to the firewall and you asked whether we will get the reply or not, right? So
Right.
okay. Okay, now I got it. So anything that
Yeah, but
passes
yeah.
through firewall is I mean, traffic that is passing through firewall, but anything which is going to just firewall only, so that is
Mhm.
uh, traffic to the firewall only, right?
Of course, yes. You got it
Okay.
right. Okay. Anybody else? Any question? Stay hydrated, guys. Keep drinking water. Keeps your brain active and alive. Okay. First things first. Let's. Oh, I set it up. Why is it not working? One moment, guys. Yeah, this is set up. Hmm. So you can, just make it work from here, from this topology as well. I did the configuration, but for some reason it is not working. Never mind. What I'm trying is you simply click on the image here and it opens up this terminal for us, right? But for some reason it is working with the original diagram, but not what I uploaded. Anyway, I'll look at this later on. It takes some time, guys. The firewall, uh, it takes some time for the firewall to be active and take the default credentials every time you do a boot up. Okay, let's say you restart the firewall, you might see the prompt, but uh, you may not be able to actually log in for some time, even if you are entering the correct credentials, right? And also, I am checking that's true though, but I'm also checking that if I'm entering anything incorrect. Okay, give me a minute. Right, should be admin, yeah. Yes, I am entering it correct. So let's give it some more time. Perfect. So now the very first thing you will have to do is change the password to something more secure. The default that I'm entering here is admin user, admin password. System halt. That doesn't look good. Let's give it a minute, guys. Let's see what it is trying to do. Looks like stuck in loop. Maybe let's try to give it some more resources. I hope the image is okay. You know what? I won't waste time. 4 GB of RAM should be enough for it to boot, but let's double it right away.
Sukesh, I have one question. Your internal traffic between the lanes should also go through firewall?
Internal traffic, you mean
The
even
lane
if there's
traffic,
more
local area.
no, not necessarily. But it really depends on, what the traffic we are talking about here. If it is something strictly internal also can have a different classification, of the data. Let's say you are trying to get into some HR side of the network or finances side of the network. So not everybody should be able to access that part of the internal network. So that will go through the firewall. It will be restricted and it will be for certain users only. So it really depends on what kind of traffic are we talking about.
Mm.
Right? In general, for understanding, if you're saying that, let's imagine your company scenario, you sitting here, your colleague next to you, traffic from your machine to his machine, try to ping and all. I don't think that goes through the firewall, right? It is just the layer 2 communication, no application being accessed, right?
Okay. So application related. Okay.
And any
Yes.
particular application you would access, it will go through the firewall for the security of it, right?
Yeah, even internal application we talk about,
Yes,
it should go
even
through the
internal
firewalls.
applications.
Okay.
Yes, even the internal DMZ, because see, all your applications will be structured and will be kept in a certain area of the network, which is we are calling DMZ, internal DMZ to be more precise, and that should go through the firewall.
Okay. And this management plane of firewall should be accessible from inside your network, right?
Right, right. We will talk about it.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, while we are at it, now at this prompt, this is what I was saying. Even if I put in the default credentials, it won't let me, let me in. So it needs some time in the background. It also happens with the hardware devices, with the VMs on the cloud VM, right? Any version of the Palo Alto firewall, right? And this is the real experience that you will also get in your network. Now, do not test it first thing. Don't try and reboot the firewalls.
So every time we reboot the firewall, we need to change the password, right?
No, not every time. The first time you change the password, um, let's say this is like out of the box firewall, right?
Mhm.
So you will have to put in a strong password. By default,
Okay.
it comes with the password as admin. The word admin is
Okay.
the password.
Okay. So first, while setting up, we need to put a strong password, and even if we reboot later, we should not change the password, or will not get the
Right.
option.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Okay. So I'll try to keep it identical to the lab guide, guys, so that when I share the lab guide with you, you can follow through it easily, right? So this is the lab guide that I'll be using, right? It has all the whatever I will do. It will have the steps of it. You don't really have to worry about noting down the steps. What I'm telling you is already there in it. What I would but highly recommend is when you are in your own time after the class, try and do these things practically. Theoretical, yes, there won't be a lot of theory that I'll be telling you, right? I'll be showing you a lot of things practically wherever possible, right? In some cases, we might have the license limitation on the firewall. Then is when we will not be able to see that particular feature. But yeah, wherever possible, wherever the firewall does not restrict us for not having the license, I will show you that feature practically. But if you just see me doing, it is just me who is learning. Okay, to learn, you will have to do it. You cannot learn to drive a car sitting on the passenger seat. You will have to be there on the driver's seat and try and do the things to actually get it working and learn how to drive. So think like that and try and do. Okay. Now, right. So this is 1.192.168.1.254. They're probably using a different subnet mask. Let's see. Not mentioned anywhere. No worries. Let's go simple, guys. And you guys are aware of the lab platform, right? EveNG is what we use. Is anyone who has no idea about EveNG, you'll be getting access of this lab um, from networking, right? And we will you'll be able to create your own labs, I think. And if not, you will have the same lab available for you. I'm not sure what level of access that you will get, whether or not you can create your own labs, but you will definitely have access to the one that you see here in the class. And I would highly recommend anyone who is a beginner to IT or to networking or to firewalls, right? Invest in a really good, powerful laptop or desktop, right? Make your own make your own mini network and practice everything as much as possible. If you're doing Cisco courses, routing, switching, firewall, load balancers, you know, even cloud to certain extent, right? Try and get a good uh, machine, right? The cloud access. By cloud, I mean you can also get the free access of Azure or AWS or any other cloud provider. Right, so I will just give it the same IP address 192.168 1 dot. Is that 210 or 20? 20. Right, I will give the default gateway as 1.1, which is our firewall. Right, actually, I have made a mistake, guys. See, this isn't powering on. Hang on, let me fix the topology. Let's try a different image of the firewall. You know, sometimes it doesn't work. It's best that I use a new node. So for any connection you have to make, you will have to stop the devices. Yeah, this looks promising. This is the font, you can say, of the console on the firewall. Previous one did not have this. You see, the boot up is fairly quick, but you cannot log in. It's weird, but it is what it is. Okay, in the meantime, let's do this. I think I configured I was using this previously. You know how do you figure out? Here it is Ethernet 1, Ethernet 2, but inside of the PC, you see local area connection 0, 2, 5. So it is mapped in the increasing order. Okay. So the connections here start with 0, Ethernet 0, Ethernet 1, Ethernet 2. So Ethernet 0 is local area connection, and Ethernet 1 is the higher number than that. So that's 2 here. And let me just double check this. If I give 3 interfaces, I hope it starts with 0. Yeah. So 192.168 1.20. Default gateway is off the firewall. You want to save this configuration? Yes. Got it right. Yeah. The error was only for this guy here. This is connecting us to the internet directly. So I'll just disable that. I will also disable this. So we are now only connected on this interface here. Ethernet 1 connects through this unmanaged switch or bridge, you can say, with the firewall on both these interfaces. Okay. Let's see if we can access the firewall now. Yes, perfect. We are in the firewall. Now, the first thing you would want to do is configure the firewall for management interface, and then onwards we will access the GUI of it and do the rest of the config on the GUI. Okay. So set device config, and like in Cisco, you do question mark for a help. Here, you just keep using tab, even to autocomplete the command, and also for the further options that you may have with the command. Okay, so set device config. You don't see anything related to management here. Okay, so system. Now with system, you have these many options. What do we have to change? We have to change the IP address here. And you will also need the net mask of the IP address. IP address. Now the IP address 192.168.1 dot, what was it? 254 on the management. Net mask. Let's keep it simple. /24. Yeah. And what else we have to? Yes, this type here is really important, guys. So you specify the IP address, and then actually we should do this system IP address. Type static. Okay. Why? Because by default, it tries to take IP address from some sort of DHCP server. Okay, so we have to set it to static so that we can choose our own IP address, right? So that's how you do it. Now, there is one more thing that I think you need. Okay, let me just double check. Now, any communication here, all these system settings that you see, any setting or communication related to the firewall. Okay, you want to change system, you want to change how the firewall behaves, right? Everything is set here under system. Okay, you can set route, but yeah, let's look at other things in the GUI. And always, any changes that you do, you have to commit for those changes to take effect. Right, this is reachable. So this is the message that you also get on the CLI and on the GUI, right? Because this is treating it like an out-of-the-box firewall. So it says, please change your password prior to deployment before you start sending traffic through it into the production. Secure it. Oh, okay. This is version 8, fairly an old version of the PanOS. I think the latest we are running on 11 or 10 for sure. No worries. I'll get the latest image, guys, for in the upcoming classes or upcoming sessions. There's not a huge difference on the way it works. Slightly more colorful on 10 onwards. Okay, the dashboard and all becomes a little yellow. Okay, more popping colors. The features and the placement of the features, it remains identical. So for now, let's just look at things that we have to, and later on we can always upgrade it to the newer version. Okay, so don't think that, oh, we are studying an old version of the firewall, not good, nothing like that. Yeah. So yeah, this is your default dashboard that you see. Some of the widgets which provides you related information, pretty self-explanatory. In the general information here, you see anything and everything about the firewall system-related information, right? The CPU, serial number, model, which model it is, right? The management address, if IPv6 you're using, and that's there are IPv4. Right? And all these are the next generation features, any licenses that you have. For example, here, the URL filtering version, we don't really have a license here for this. So it shows 000, right? When you have the license here, it will display the license number of that feature, right? Same goes for the global protect agent, right? And this is the application version that you have. Now, this is it's like the database version, how your if you put it in layman's term, it's a version of the database on the firewall. Not really a layman language, but how you update your applications on the computer, right? Yeah, I think it's similar to that. And here, the software version, this is the actual operating system. You call it PanOS, right? Palo Alto Network Operating System. Anything that is related to the device itself, which means the firewall itself, you go under the device tab and configure here. Okay. This is all your communication to the firewall. Okay. Anything that is here is the communication to the firewall, right? Be it the administrator passwords, login, high availability configuration. This configuration here is between the two firewalls, so they will be communicating with each other, right? Authentication profiles. When the users will log in through the Active Directory, you will send traffic here to the firewall to get authenticated, right? And all certificate management, SSL decryption, the traffic that gets decrypted by the firewall and then gets inspected and then sent forward to the destination later on. But the decryption part of it, which is the firewall doing, the setting is here. So the bottom line is anything that you want to change on the device in terms of its behavior, its involvement into that particular traffic, right? You do it here. Okay. Anything related to the network in terms of network, I mean here, the router. Okay. You might it might sound a little confusing. The firewall, yes, of course, it has the routing features and the routing functionality, okay, and those are displayed here under the networks tab. Okay, so that includes what? Your interfaces, your zone, VLAN, right? Virtual wires, virtual router, right? And all other the IPsec related information here. If it is acting as DHCP server, everything is here. Okay. Under object, you have objects. Okay. Under object, you have a different type of configuration objects or the configuration pieces which are reusable into the configuration, right? Let's take a simple example of addresses. You create an address, let's say, of the server, which is being heavily used by different network segments. So you can use that particular address in all the security policies. You don't really have to specify the IP address of it again and again, right? We are humans. We like names. We don't like IP addresses. You don't want to remember IP address. But in terms of troubleshooting, right, we are humans, but we are also engineers. So we like IP addresses. So the operating system in terms of GUI, it's really a good blend of both. Okay. You will also see the IP address of it, but when you are configuring, you don't really have to use the IP address all the time. You can use the name of that particular object. Okay, makes sense? Under policies, you have your security policies, NAT policies, decryption, etc. And this is what I was talking about. You have two default policies there on the firewall, intra-zone default and inter-zone default. Now, if you look at inter-zone default, don't worry about things that I'm not talking about here. We will talk about them later. Okay. Pay attention to the source and destination. Source zone, any address, any destination zone, any address, any. What is the action? It is denied, right? But when the zone is intrazone, now what does the intrazone means, right? It is not the name of the zone. It's just a default policy which specifies that if the zone is same, it will be treated like this. It is the system's way of. It is the system's way of understanding that intrazone traffic is allowed. Okay. Any question here or up till now?
No.
No, we're good. So I think it's been some time since we are on the chair. Let's step away for 10 minutes and we come back in 10. Is that okay? Or do you want more or less? Let's take a break and move your body a little. Okay.
Okay.
Sukesh, so I have this question because I am new to this. I was attending